Merlin. Merlin, class name Caster, Kaioshin, is a caster class servant summoned by Ritsuka Fujimaru in the Grand Orders of Fate/Grand Order. He holds the position of Grand Caster, Garando Kaioshin, the Magus of Flowers, Hana no Majitsusher, the Vagrant of the Paradise. A prophet and advisor who made his entry into Arthurian legends as the court Magus, he would at times guide, at times torment, and at times help King Arthur as a king so that she could overcome many enemies and hardships. Still, though he is a wise man, he is fundamentally inhuman, because he was born of mixed blood from the union of an incubus and a human. With illusions as his forte, he can transform into various shapes. There was a case where he had changed into the shape of a beast whose insides are not human, and his true form is not certain. Legend. Merlin's life is steeped with mystery. It is said that his mother was a princess of Wales, but it is also said that his father was supposedly a supernatural incubus who lived in the gap between the earth and the moon. It has been said that Merlin had performed many prophecies at a young age. Among the many prophecies that caused Merlin's name to become widely known, there was one in which, after correctly guessing about the existence of two dragons, one red and one white, sleeping beneath Mount Emrys, he spoke of how, at the time of having that vision, those red and white dragons would fight against each other upon waking up. Merlin's words, which were transmitted in posterity as prophecies, indicated the red dragon as Britain and the white dragon as the Saxons, and under a great king would Britain finally gather their forces and surely reign over both Gaul and Rome. He also left behind many other prophecies, and amongst them were those concerning wars and even the king's death. Merlin served King Uther Pendragon. Uther loved Igraine, the wife of Duke Cornwall, so he secured Merlin's assistance in winning her love at the price of leaving his child in Merlin's care. Thus, after he rised up as a magus, Merlin helped arrange the marriage between King Arthur's father, Uther Pendragon, and Princess Igraine, and watched over King Arthur since before her birth. Merlin told Uther a prophecy about his child, who would become his appointed successor during their war-torn times. Under an arrangement from Uther, Merlin helped produce an heir bearing the essence of a dragon, so Artoria was born as a human infused with the dragon's magical energy. Although the child was a girl who could not officially become the successor, Merlin was delighted all the same, believing that her sex never mattered. Confident that having her separated from the castle until the prophecy was fulfilled was proof that she would become king, when Artoria was 5 years old Merlin entrusted her to the king's vassal, Sir Ector, and had her raised as the child of a knight. Merlin visited at some point during Artoria's upbringing and swore Sir Kay to secrecy about the matter of her gender. According to anecdotes, Merlin taught many things to the young Arthur and monitored the child's growth, taking on a role akin to that of a foster father. Merlin prepared Caliban for the selection of the next king, but none could pull it out of the stone. As the other participants prepared a jousting match to decide the kingship, Artoria neared the sword and prepared to pull it without hesitation. Merlin appeared before her then, telling her she should think it through and described that to become king is to no longer be human. Warning her that she should stop because she is fated to die a miserable death while resented by all of humanity, he showed her the end she would face. Having prepared for that day since her birth and firmly believing in the smiling people she saw in Merlin's vision, Artoria pulled it without hesitation and became king. As he left her, Merlin said that in exchange for that miracle, she will lose that which is most important to her. Artoria lost Caliban at a later point and obtained Excalibur and Avalon from the Lady of the Lake. It is said that in legends, Merlin asked Artoria about which implement was better, chiding her for choosing the sword since the sheath will protect her. Due to Artoria having issues with discussing her gender and producing an heir, Merlin's magecraft was used to solve those issues by making her a pseudo-male for some duration of time, which allowed for the creation of Mordred from her sperm. Possessing outstanding clairvoyance, in spite of having foreseen all about the collapse of the Round Table and the crises within Britain, Merlin left Britain without telling anything to King Arthur. Merlin had left King Arthur before her last battle with Mordred due to his love affairs problem. He claimed that the cold-mannered woman had been trying to murder him, so he has taken refuge in the reverse side of the world where he'd crossed the boundary and stumbled into a foreign land known as Avalon. Merlin had thought that the evil witch could not reach him anymore, but he encountered a gate that was built with rough stones, resembling the stone circles. The gate was inscribed with "Only those free of sin may pass." Merlin realized that the gate was a trap and he was imprisoned when he had walked into it. Massive walls of stone emerged from the ground in front of him. The walls seemed to vertically extend forever, effectively trapping the visiting magus inside. The place is like a tower without a roof. There are many theories as for why Merlin never told King Arthur about the fate that awaits her. but it is often said that it was because he is not biased towards individuals, instead caring only about fate, or so the story goes. Afterwards, Merlin went to the Utopia Avalon and then confined himself within a prison tower, called the Garden of Avalon, for all eternity, having transcended death. To ascertain the world of humans until the end of the universe, without being able to even die, as if to say that this is the fate of a foolish man, who playfully meddled with the fate of a single girl. This also means that there is no possibility of him becoming a heroic spirit even if he is worshipped by the masses, since he is unable to die in order to have his soul recorded in the throne of heroes. The one who declared Arthur, who pulled out the sword of selection, Caliban, as the mark of the king of Britain, and later on guided him to the lake and gave him Excalibur as a substitute for the lost Caliban, is none other than Merlin. He guided, helped, and numerously prophesied for Arthur, who started walking on the path of a king who dreamt of ideals. However, Merlin himself cannot continue on walking side by side with his beloved king. Due to the dreadful magic of Vivian, the fairy of the lake, some said that it was Merlin himself who had taught Vivian. Merlin was caught within the tower. And so, even Merlin, who possesses the powerful ability of foresight, in spite of having foreseen all about the collapse of the Round Table and the dangers within Britain, was unable to convey his regrets as King Arthur had approached that moment. It is said that Merlin, just like that, lost his life as he was trapped within the tower. A life born in mystery, and died in mystery. However, there is an anecdote that says he is still alive even now, watching over the people. Accordingly, it is said that as Merlin stepped down from the era of King Arthur, he then helped the 12 heroes of the era of King Charlemagne, known as the Paladins. A hunk of a magus, no matter how one puts it. Just by being there, Merlin exudes a fresh aura, as if flowers fills the surroundings. He was not a really major character in the legend, but all the knights of the Round Table agrees on this. Good grief. There's no helping it. He is that kind of character. Even Saber, Artoria, ended up behaving just like a girl her own age. A girl who is at lost when facing his mischievous father. Merlin's role is the same as Gandalf from The Lord of the Rings, no matter how one cuts it. Add that with a feeling of a fresh young prince. Now we have the gallant entry of a pretty boy of Middle-earth. Appearance. Merlin wears a robe woven with the finest fabrics, though he still looks modest, his long hair appearing with the colors of the rainbow under sunlight. Personality. I like the world of humans very much, but when it comes to each of them individually, I'm relatively, well, yeah. Very well, I suddenly feel that some things are better left unsaid. Merlin. Just like this, it is not like he is an ally of humans. A young man who is like a wind blowing on the grasslands. Before him, anyone would end up letting the tension out of their shoulders, a refreshingly righteous person. Still, due to seemingly being quite lacking in terms of seriousness and such together with a lack of the sense of responsibility, one can see that Merlin may also appear as a shady con man. A rhetorician who, even while perceiving things in an objective manner and accepting the cruelty of the world of humans, turns it into something bright by saying things like, "But, it wouldn't be fun otherwise, right?" Despite being a hybrid being, Merlin has never hated humans. Rather, he is fond of them to such a degree that it is beyond natural. He loves the world of humans, loves mischief, and loves girls. Generally, he is the magus of flowers who retorts at most things with a refreshing smile and a calm expression such as, now. As Merlin explains to Anna, incubi like himself do not have emotions of their own. They feed off of humans' dreams to harvest subtleties of the heart from them. They then expend those harvested emotions as fuel to feel emotions themselves. Openly like this, he tends to appear as having a perfectly happy personality, a perfectly happy guy, without a single worry, but since Merlin himself is self-aware about the fact that he is a foreign body in regards to human society, he never crosses that last step, the wall called friendship. Ultimately, just like a child who enjoys tasty food, he is always watching over and protecting the world so that mankind can reach a happy outcome. So, if one is looking only at the end result, Merlin is a good man, and a wise one. But inside, he is an incubus, a being very far apart from humans. He, a being that consumes dreams, can essentially understand human emotions, but cannot truly sympathize with it. He is an alien-like, inhuman being, who only rationally excuses himself inside a dream equals a human mind activity, and consumes it, and then leaves just like an insect. Due to this macroscopic evaluation criteria, perhaps he just cannot understand the human heart, unable to even know the actions of a person or to sympathize with it. Normally, he would be an identical being with the beasts, an adolescent life form of a higher order that is certified as an enemy of humanity. Merlin is very boastful about his abilities as a mage, claiming that he inflicts jealousy and envy on all other servants, especially casters, since they are second-rate to him. It's a given that Merlin could see through the identity of the ringleader behind the Grand Order's incident. It's also a given that he stays silent about it. The human protagonist must struggle with his own power. It is only fate, for otherwise, they would only perceive their enemy as one they cannot defeat. Not even Merlin can surpass the last boss, the king of magecraft, this time. Actually, on this basis, no heroic spirit can surpass him. The one who is destined to be able to surpass him is not a heroic spirit, but only a human who lives, now, in the present. Therefore, he shall watch over the master, just as he had once watched over many kings in the past. Merlin shall believe in the master, the hope of human history. He shall lend his power to the utmost, and then he shall entertain himself relaxingly. Merlin's desire is to carve open a path for the protagonist's own destiny, to watch him off as he walks towards the future, to gaze at that kind of beautiful view. After that, I'll just do as I always do, disappearing completely from everybody's memory. Most other things, I can do without much of a fuss. But this alone, I can never get used to. Abilities. Merlin is one among the top-ranking casters and is said to be the most feared magus in the country of Britain, albeit rivaled by Morgan Le Fay. Having reached the top of the caster class by meeting high standards in both power and legends, Merlin meets the necessary requirements to be summoned as Grand Caster. Due to still being alive trapped in Avalon, Merlin can't usually be summoned to fight in a Holy Grail war except under some circumstances. Should he manifest as a servant, his magical energy consumption would be incredibly high, as supplying him almost drained Gilgamesh dry. Bolstered by his incubus heritage, Rin Tosaka describes that being able to disguise Artoria's gender or arrange for a child that should never have been born should be an extremely easy task. The creation of invisible air is attributed to something he could have thought up for Artoria. Merlin has also shown to be able to turn Tiamat's Sea of Life into flowers, draining her power, even though it had spread to the point that it was covering almost all if not all of the underworld. His magic can also be used defensively as he was able to block Ku Alterski Balg to protect Mash even when he was trapped in Avalon in a daydreaming state. Merlin is capable of predicting the future, as he taught Artoria how to do so by reading the stars. One of his known limitations is that he is unable to remote control divine constructs such as the Axe of Marduk due to them repelling human magecraft. He would only be able to make it levitate a bit and then drop it. Merlin has the ability to teleport himself and others away from danger, but does so in the most conspicuous way possible. In the Babylonia anime adaptation, he's shown summoning a bright pink orb that surrounds himself and his allies to warp them away. The orb also emits his signature flower petals. Merlin was capable of using a magecraft called Conceptual Conception, which he used to have Igraine be impregnated with the concept of the red dragon that protects Britain. This caused Artoria to be born with a dragon magic core inside of her. However, Merlin does not treat magecraft as his forte, claiming that he stumbles during incantations and that it's easier to beat people down with a sacred sword instead. Having been Artoria's swordsmanship instructor, Merlin is an extremely skilled swordsman and has been shown wielding Excalibur, as shown when he fought multiple of Tiamat's new 11 offspring at once, whereas even Ishtar's beams were incapable of piercing their skin. As an incubus, Merlin can freely walk into the mind of anyone who's asleep and mess with them however he wants, though to his chagrin in Lancer Artoria's interlude, Ritsuka only half asleep, meaning the protagonist would still remember this when he wakes up and could report it instead of dismissing it as part of a dream. He's able to temporarily exit his imprisonment in Avalon while taking a nap by letting his powers take him to the fifth singularity. Just like the legend says, Merlin is really good at running away. Kingu considers that capturing him would be extremely difficult and killing him even harder. The reason he seemed weak during most part of the Babylonia singularity is that he was saving magical energy to aid Chaldea. Merlin claims that his only true weakness are the mystic eyes of petrification, and as such, he refuses to fight Gorgon, who had been empowered by the Holy Grail and Tiamat's authority. Merlin possesses the proof of the highest mage, clairvoyance, the eyes which see through the world. Eyes that are able to see beyond while the person stands in place. From time immemorial, it is the power entrusted to the lands by the gods and the power shamans needed to guard lives. However profound and capable one's magic circuits may be in performing the strongest forms of magecraft, a mage who does not possess these eyes shall not be given the title of the most supreme. Merlin's clairvoyance is said to be on par with that of the likes of Gilgamesh and Solomon, which both have EX rank. While most uses of this ability allow the user to see the future, or even the past as well, Merlins can only see the present. Skills. Class skills. Territory creation, see rank creation of a workshop territory that is advantageous to himself as a magus. But since he tends to get tired of it, he usually just toss it away halfway. High-speed incantation, see rank the ability to hasten magic incantation speed. All casters have beautiful pronunciation, though there are one or two exceptions. If he talks fast sometimes he bites his own tongue, so the rank is low. C. Item construction, see rank creation of tools tinged with magic energy. The man himself is full of confidence, but it's hard to say that he is superiorly talented for it. Mixed blood, EX rank the blood of something inhuman is mixed in. Merlin is a half-blood born from the union of a human and an incubus, and as such, he has perfectly inherited the incubus trait. This skill makes Merlin immortal, so the second his body is destroyed, he'll simply reappear in Avalon. Independent manifestation, a skill that permits unsupported manifestation into reality. Originally, Merlin should not be summonable in the capacity of a heroic spirit, for, irrelevant of the future that comes to pass, his death shall not occur. Ergo, to serve a master in the capacity of a servant is in essence a fulfillment of his personal desires. To put it in other words, he acts as a servant merely as a part of his hobby. For the purpose of making his fantasies as reality, he has by personal effort obtained this skill, even though it would be normally restricted to a certain unique class, beast, making use of it to the end of pretending to be summoned as a servant. By use of this skill, Merlin was summoned by Gilgamesh in the Babylonia Singularity as an irregular caster. When questioned as to how this was possible when he wasn't yet deceased, he claimed that it may have something to do with his connection with the Singularity, or the fact that the era of the summoning lies prior to his birth, allowing for him to qualify as not being alive. After Merlin apparently died following the defeat of the Gorgon, Dr. Roman indicated that the Merlin that had been traveling at Fujimaru's side was merely a projection and that his primary manifestation within the era was occupied with the task of restraining the goddess Tiamat within her slumber. He suggested that Merlin may have been killed in the process of Tiamat's awakening. However, in the final confrontation against Tiamat, Merlin was revealed to be still alive, taking advantage of the incineration of the human order to bypass his confinement within Avalon and physically traveling to Babylonia help Ritsuka's party in the underworld. Personal skills. Hero creation, EX rank the techniques and arts to artificially give birth to and raise a king. Merlin, who can be described as the true father of King Arthur, is known as the most prominent kingmaker in the world. Charisma, B rank the ability of personal charm. A skill indispensable for kings and leaders, but for some reason Merlin naturally possesses it. Dreamlike charisma, a rank upgrade from charisma. Illusion arts, a skill related to mental interference, and a magecraft for the use of beguilement. It refers to interference with the psyche, and the projection of illusions into reality. At a rank, the introduction of nightmares unto the realm of the psyche is a matter of course, and even within reality, an illusion on the scale of a single village may be manifested with ease, to the end of successfully beguiling humans. He was able to trap Kingu without them noticing. Prior to the arrival of Chaldea to the Babylonia Singularity, he was the one responsible for postponing Tiamat's awakening by trapping her in a cage of dreams. Merlin is incredibly proficient in this type of magecraft as he is the teacher of the spirits who taught magecraft to Francois Prelati. Noble Phantasm. Merlin's noble phantasm is Garden of Avalon, which reproduces in the surroundings the tower where Merlin is, even now, being confined. Flowers bloom all around above the ground, and no matter what kind of darkness or hell it is, the daylight shall shine upon it. Even if the area that he is allowed to be is but the jail of mere 10 meters in 4 directions, and the view that was granted to him is but of the cut-off sky in the faraway horizon, that place will eternally be a utopia. A place where Merlin the Magus of Flower exists is not hell, but none other than land filled with hope. Grand Caster. Due to Solomon using Ars Nova in the final confrontation against Goetia and subsequently removing himself from the throne of heroes, Merlin became the current Grand Caster Servant. As a Grand Servant, Merlin has been granted a superb Saint Graph of a rank above normal servants and stands at the pinnacle of all heroic spirits.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.